Well, good morning, everybody. It is 6 minutes past the hour of 9 o'clock, and I am decidedly not Chris Hand. He's much more handsome than I, but I just wanted to step in here today. Chris has the day off, and I'm going to be filling in on what is turning out to be a very busy news day. We got a couple of things that we're watching. One of them is an national story that has to do with what's going on with Israel's attack against Iran and what that means, and tensions are very high throughout that entire region right now. We'll get into great detail about that. The president is about to meet with his National Security Council, and if there's anything that comes out of that, we will take it live. There is that. We are still watching, of course, what's happening in L.A. and other cities around the country. And one of the cities we're watching quite closely is right here in our own backyard, Nashville today. Kilmar Abrego Garcia is about to be arraigned in about an hour from now down at the courthouse. And there was some talk that there might be protest. It is also true that it's going to rain here in just a bit. And I've always found, just personal experience, that protesters don't like rain. And so it'll be interesting to see if anybody really turns out. We got another protest tomorrow in downtown Nashville and around the country. No King's Day. You can't make this up. And so that may be the bigger of the 2 days, but we've also got rain on the forecast for tomorrow. So who knows how it's going to play out here in Nashville. We have Dan Mandis and we got Matt Murphy down there at the courthouse in the area, watching to see what develops. And in the course of the next hour or so, we'll be checking in with them to see exactly how that thing is developing. When I saw it a little while ago, but it was still, a couple hours out, it looked like there were more reporters there than there were protesters, but we'll watch and see what happens as the morning progresses. But let's start, while we have a little time before that gets underway down at the courthouse. Let's start with what happened overnight. When you woke up this morning, you may have heard the news that Israel attacked Iran. And it was a big attack designed to take out their nuclear facilities and their nuclear processing plants and all of that. This is from Axios, Israel's stunning and sprawling operation overnight targeted Iran's nuclear facilities, missile sites, scientists, and generals following 8 months of extensive clandestine operations and preparations. The operation launched a new war in the Middle East that could draw in the U.S., demolished any hopes of a nuclear deal, and dealt arguably the biggest single blow to the Iranian regime since the 1979 revolution, and it was only beginning. Israel is attempting to eliminate Iran's nuclear and ballistic missile capabilities in an operation expected to last at least several days, according to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Other Israeli officials said it could take weeks, could be a big, long, protracted attack against Iran. Now, here's what Israel was trying to do. They went big. In the opening hours, they tried to assassinate nuclear scientists who have the know-how to make a nuclear bomb. Around 25 scientists were targeted, at least 2 confirmed dead so far. Israel also targeted the entire top brass of Iran's military. The commander of the Revolutionary Guard and military chief were both confirmed dead, along with another senior general. The Israeli operation didn't include airstrikes. Israel's Mossad, listen to this, Mossad intelligence service has operatives on the ground conducting covert sabotage operations on missile and air defense sites, officials said. Israel is expected to keep pounding Iran's underground nuclear facilities in the coming days, along with other targets. So it is a multi-day campaign. They are going after the scientists. They're going after the generals. They're going after the key military leaders. They are doing everything they can to deprive Iran of any kind of ability to make a nuclear weapon. Now, this wasn't a complete shock. It was not shock, stunned, and amazed because, just yesterday, the question was asked of the president, do you think that something is imminent between Israel and Iran. And this followed, the reason that question was asked is because the U.S. made efforts yesterday to get non-essential personnel out of embassies in the region and started to evacuate them and bring them home. And so the question was asked, is this going to happen? Is it imminent? He said, I wouldn't say it's imminent. But look, the fact of the matter is the United States has been very clear with Iran. You will not be allowed to have a nuclear weapon. And Israel decided that they would go in and do the dirty work. But if they hadn't, I'm not sure what would have happened, because the United States has been very clear that if you got close to having a nuclear weapon, we would intervene in a big way. So we have the Israelis going after Iran. Here's another story, this one from Fox News. It's called Rising Lion, designed to roll back Iran's threat to Israel's survival. We got Benjamin Netanyahu confirming that one of Iran's 2 nuclear facilities had been hit Thursday night in a strike against the regime. Iran has produced enough highly enriched uranium for 9 atom bombs, 9, Netanyahu said. In recent months, Iran is taking steps that it has never taken before to weaponize this enriched uranium. And if not stopped, Iran could produce a nuclear weapon in a very short period of time. And then later, Iran responded by launching approximately 100 retaliatory drones toward Israeli territory, which, according to the IDF, we'll see, they intercepted, they said, most of them. So it didn't really have the impact that Iran wanted. You got to wonder, Iran is attacked by Israel in probably one of the most sophisticated attacks in some time to take out their nuclear weapons. And all that Iran can do is throw some slow-moving drones in the direction of Israel. They're not very fast. They're easy to take down. And if that's all you got, then it would seem that, the military of Iran doesn't have the ability to respond to anything that Israel does, doesn't have the ability to respond to anything the United States might choose to do. We seem to be absolutely happy to let Israel take care of this, but it would probably be in the best interest of everyone if a deal could be struck. Doesn't look like that's going to happen now. Israel, Iran both have their backs up, and we'll see what happens. Retaliatory drones. That's all you got. The Natanz nuclear facility, one of Tehran's key nuclear sites, which has been flagged by security experts that in coordination with the Fordow Fuel Enrichment Plant could produce enough weapons-grade uranium to produce 11 nuclear weapons within a month. They were within a month of producing 11 nuclear weapons. Does anybody think that Iran with a nuclear weapon is a good idea? No. We struck at the heart of Iran's nuclear enrichment program. We struck at the heart of Iran's nuclear weaponization program. We targeted Iran's main enrichment facility in Natanz. We targeted Iran's leading nuclear scientist working on the Iranian bomb, he added. The Natanz nuclear facility was at least partially destroyed in 2020 following an explosion, and satellite imagery suggested that Iran began constructing deep underground tunnels to further secure their nuclear program. But they have the ability, they got bunker buster bombs, etc., all kinds of things. But here it is, big fight. Iran, Israel, how will the rest of the region react? How will the United States react? Will things remain calm in the region? That is the unknowable question at this time. Will things spiral in a bigger way? Trump has warned that there will be more brutal attacks if there is no nuclear deal. This according to the Wall Street Journal. Iran replaces military leaders killed in Israeli attack. They've already appointed new military leaders to replace those killed. Hezbollah vows to respond over Israel's strikes on Iran. Okay. Well, they've already been pretty much weakened, haven't they? And remember, Hezbollah is a proxy of Iran, and Israel's been doing everything they can to degrade them for some time now. Iranian ships stop entering ports amid strike concerns. And there you go. Trump urges Iran to reach nuclear deal before there is nothing left. And again, we may well hear from the president in just a short while. He may have something to say about all this. And if he does, we'll take that to you live. I gave Iran chance to make a deal, Trump said on his Truth social media platform. He added that he warned Tehran that the United States makes the best and most lethal military equipment anywhere in the world by far, and Israel has a lot of it, with much more coming, and they know how to use it. 17 minutes now past the hour. Hello?
Well, I don't know where our guy went, Brian.
Okay. Well, I'll just keep talking.
Well, I think that's probably the best thing to do.
All right. You can see me, but I can't see him. All right.
Ah, yes.
All right. Well, there we go. Fetterman, by the way, John Fetterman, Democrats largely attacked this whole thing. They don't like it, saying that it destabilizes the region. But John Fetterman, Democrat, Pennsylvania, and a man who, I've come to have a bit more respect for than I did in the early going, has expressed staunch support for Israel's assault against Iran, calling for the U.S. to back Israel's efforts by providing the ally with anything it needs. Our commitment to Israel must be absolute, and I must fully support this attack. Wiping out Iranian leadership and the nuclear personnel, we must provide whatever is necessary, military, intelligence, weaponry, to fully back Israel in striking Iran. Now, you know that many on the left are going to be against this, but there is at least one guy out there who seems to be in favor of continuing to support Israel. So there you have all that. I mean, this is a big deal. Not surprising. It's been sort of, developing and getting closer and closer and closer and closer now for several weeks. We knew things were coming to a sort of an inflection point where something was going to have to be done. If Iran wasn't going to come to the table and have serious talks with the United States, and it seemed like, well, they sort of talked like they might be interested, but they didn't really want to have a deal. They didn't really want to negotiate. They were just talking to talk, but not actually to accomplish anything. And when it became very clear that Iran was, not serious about a peace deal, then I think it became incumbent upon Israel to do what Israel has to do. I mean, you have to understand, if they got a nuclear weapon, then Israel would be unsafe. And nobody thinks they have one yet, but they could have as many as 11 in very, very short order. And that's just simply, you talk about something that would destabilize the entire region. I wonder, when I hear Democrats say, well, I wish, if Israel hadn't done that, my question is, well, would you have rather that they got the nuclear weapon? Of course, you had to take action. Israel had to take action. Israel is our ally. The United States will continue to support Israel in every way that it can. But this is a very, very
sticky.
It's a very heightened situation, is what I would say.
So we've got Louis back if you want to.
Louis back.
Yeah.
Louis, let's take a commercial break at 20 minutes past the hour. Hey, Louis.
More strikes on Iran. What's happening in the Middle East right now? And a miracle in India where hundreds of people died after a plane crash. Those stories coming up here at 9:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Chris Hand, you're listening to the Chris Hand Show. He'll be back on Monday. And we are watching two big stories. Of course, what happened overnight with Israel attacking Iran and the entire region on high alert. The United States is watching very closely. There will be a meeting at 11 o'clock East Coast time with President Trump and his National Security Council. One gets the impression that some of that will be open to the press. And if that happens, we will, of course, take it to you. And at the same time, in about another, 30 minutes or so, we will be watching what happens down at the courthouse here in Nashville as we are trying to find out what will happen with Kilmar Abrego Garcia. Will he be arraigned? What will happen there? As you know, there's supposed to be a protest there. Dan Mandis and Matt Murphy are on the scene. And at the top of the hour, we will check in with one or both of them to find out exactly what is going on and whether or not that's going to be much of a protest. If there's no protest today, it doesn't mean we're out of the woods, because there could be another protest tomorrow for something known as No King's Day, such as it is. No King's Day. Trump, by the way, had something to say about that. He said, look, I wish I were a king. In some ways, if you're a king, you just sort of order things done.
Several No Kings protests planned across the country on Saturday as well. What are your thoughts on those?
What do they call No Kings?
No Kings.
I don't feel like a king. I have to go through hell to get stuff approved. A king would say, I'm not going to get this. A king would have never had the California mandate to even be talking to him. He wouldn't have to call up Mike Johnson and Thune and say, fellas, you got to pull this off, and after years we get it done. No, we're not a king. We're not a king at all. Thank you very much.
I love his attitude.
Yeah, well, it's the only thing you can do is just sort of laugh at it. By the way, Pete Hegseth, there's a story out there on ABC's website. Hegseth says the Pentagon has contingency plans to invade Greenland, which I think is an interesting headline. This is actually a story from the Associated Press, but here's the bottom line. Yes, we have a plan to invade Greenland. Yes, we have a plan to invade every country in the world. That's what the military does. They put together a plan. If we need to, how would we go about it? There is probably on a shelf at the Pentagon, no kidding, a plan for invading Canada.
Ooh.
Are we likely to need it? No, but is there one? Yes. So, to suggest that it's something, we have plans to take over Greenland. No, we have a plan to take over everyone if we need to. And, we need to be prepared, and there needs to be a plan on the shelf. You don't just gin that stuff up. So if there was a concern, you pull the plans off the shelf, and you've got at least a template to begin. So, again, when you read stories like this, don't get the impression that something is happening in Greenland or something's going to happen in Panama. We do always have those kinds of contingency plans. It's the one part of the government that is actually forward-thinking at times is the United States military. 30 minutes now past the hour. Time for the news.
Good morning. It's 9:30. I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. Israel's attacks on Iran are apparently not over yet. Fox News national security correspondent Jennifer Griffin reporting just moments ago.
We have just learned that another site near Iran's nuclear facility at Bushehr, an airport, was bombed by Israel just moments ago. U.S. military assets are on high alert and moving into position across the Middle East, expecting an Iranian response. But so far, most of the Iranian military commanders who could order that response were killed.
And she also says that these strikes could continue for another 2 weeks. An overnight win for President Trump as an appeals panel ruled he has every right to call up the National Guard to protect federal installations and personnel from rioters. Jonathan Fahey was director of ICE during the first Trump term. He spoke to Fox News this morning.
The statute allows him to bring in the National Guard when he decides that there is an interference with federal agencies doing their jobs. And clearly that was the case here. It's not even arguable that these rioters, their whole intent was to prevent the ICE from doing their jobs. That was their stated purpose.
That Boeing Dreamliner crash in western India yesterday, of the 242 people on board, one miracle.
Air India making a stunning announcement. One person on board survived. Extraordinary video appears to show the sole survivor, Vishwas Ramesh, limping away minutes after the crash, smoke billowing in the background. He reportedly told local media he doesn't know how he made it out alive. His family here in Britain speaking out, grateful Vishwas survived, but tragically his brother AJ still missing.
ABC's Ian Pannell reporting stocks are drastically lower today. The Dow Jones Industrials right now trading 714 points lower. The Nasdaq is down 272. S&P 500 index, that's down 68 points. That's the latest news. Weather's up next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News.
It is 37 minutes past the hour of 9 o'clock. Brian Wilson filling in for our vacationing Chris Hand, who'll be back on Monday. I'll be back a little bit later in the month to fill in for Hand. He's going to take some vacation time to be with family, and I'll be doing that today. Couldn't have picked a more busy time. There's a lot going on, but one of them is an national story, which is that Israel has attacked Iran and has taken out a lot of their nuclear processing facilities, and tensions in the the attention there is going to be, pretty much focused. So we got that. And then we got a thing happening down at our courthouse in downtown Nashville, the arraignment of Kilmar Abrego Garcia. Now, you remember the story. This is the guy who was stopped back in 2022, and the state patrol thought that he was probably, carrying people, ferrying people around, human trafficking, etc. And they had to seem like they had a pretty good case against him, but the FBI asked that the state patrol let them go. As you know, Kilmar went to El Salvador and was brought back and is going to be arraigned here in Nashville on those charges. So we'll see how that all goes. To that end, we have Dan Mandis and Matt Murphy. Dan is making his way down to the courthouse now. Matt Murphy is there, and at 10 o'clock, as this all starts to get underway, we'll check in with one or both of them to find out what's going on and what kind of response there is and just what kind of protest. I'm just exchanged a text with Matt Murphy. Said a lot of chanting. A lot of chanting is going on. So there is that. In the meantime, we're watching all those big stories. We'll go to the White House if there are developments there. We'll be watching what's going on in the region. We'll be watching happen. So anything could happen. This is one of those days where you should settle in and just pay attention because, we don't know how this whole day is going to go. We don't know exactly how big the protests are going to be downtown in Nashville, but we're on it. And we're keeping an eye on it, and we'll keep you informed as well. A couple of things that I just want to say. I am really pleased with what I see happening with the Trump administration. Again, with the exception of that squabble that developed between Trump and Elon Musk, which I don't think was helpful at all, there's a lot of winning going on here. A lot of winning that's going on. Listen to this. Gas prices down. Gas prices drop and fuel costs begin June. The decrease at the pumps continues the recent trend of lower fuel costs that began after Memorial Day weekend. Monday's gas prices were less than a week ago when the price was $3.17 according to AAA. A slight increase in gas prices was expected during the holiday weekend, but it never materialized. The price for a gallon of regular gas remained steady before and during the weekend, which is traditionally recognized as the beginning of summer. Monday's costs were substantially lower than a year ago. What was going on a year ago and what's going on now that would have possibly changed that? I wonder. When the national price for a gallon of gas was $3.53 a year ago, today's price was less expensive than a month ago when the average price for a gallon of regular gas was $3.18. I paid much less than that. I'm not paying $3.18 for gas right now. Gas prices have fluctuated in the last 6 months, but they are coming down in June. Now, why is this important? I'm going to tell you exactly why it's important. Because if you have gas prices going down, that helps to keep inflation in check. One of the things that everybody predicted, tariffs are going to cause a rise in inflation. Things are going to start costing you more, and people are going to pay more at the gas station. They're going to pay more at the grocery store. You know what? It hasn't emerged. It just hasn't happened. So there's that. When you drop the price of gasoline and fuel and oil, then what you are doing is essentially making everything that needs to go to market cheaper to get to market. There's nothing that has a more positive or negative impact on the economy than when prices go up or down for the cost of fuel and oil and natural gas and and diesel. So this is good. This is one of the reasons why we're not seeing inflation. And there's that. Then there's this. The president announced yesterday that the United States was just one step away from finalizing a trade deal with China, and that it was waiting only for final approval from him and Chinese President Xi Jinping. What sounds like to me that might happen at a state visit. Either he comes here or we go there. Under the latest agreement, the U.S. will continue to impose a 55% tariff on China, while Beijing will retain a 10% tariff on American goods, according to Trump. The president said China also made key concessions on rare earth mineral exports to the United States, which had been a sticking point in negotiations, as the products are critical to the automotive, defense, and energy industries. And in exchange, Trump will allow Chinese students to study at U.S. universities such as Harvard, despite his previous concerns that some countries, such as China, are paying nothing toward their students' education. Our deal with China is done, subject to final approval with President Xi and me, Trump said in a post to Truth Social. This is huge. This is a big dog deal. Everybody said, oh, you'll never get China to the table. Guess what? China's at the table. Oh, you'll never cut a deal. Well, it looks like we've cut a deal. I mean, is it all wrapped up in a big boat? Not quite. But when you have a statement like this, it generally says we have an agreement in principle, waiting for the paperwork, the documents to be signed. And it seems like to me that probably would happen in some kind of meeting with Trump and Xi, which would be a huge story in its own right. But all those people that said, oh, you'll never, these tariffs, you'll never get China to the table. China is going to run us into the dirt. It seemed like China's a lot more concerned about being run into the dirt than we were. And again, this is what you get from the Democrats. Oh, it's going to be bad. Oh, it's going to be bad. Nothing that he comes up with is going to be good. But you know what? The tariffs are coming together. Trade deals are coming together. People are at the table cutting better deals. We're putting money in our coffers. We are doing everything right. And it's got to be driving the Democrats absolutely, guano crazy. I love the fact that it's the trade deals are coming together, and China is the mother of all trade deals. Everything else falls into line once China has cut their deal, and it looks like we're there. Good news. Again, winning. And then there's this. Here's the other thing. When we say, look, if you come to the United States and make your products, there won't be any tariffs. Well, what does that do? It forces industries to come back to the United States and to build up our manufacturing ability, which is something that we have lost over the many, many years. We sent it all to China. Now we're trying to bring some of that back, and companies are responding. Listen to this. General Motors, this is a local story. General Motors has announced plans to invest $4 billion over the next 2 years in manufacturing plants in Tennessee and other U.S. states to increase production of what? Electrical vehicles? No. Gas vehicles and some electrical vehicles. GM says the new investment will allow the company to have the ability to assemble more than 2 million vehicles per year in the United States. The investment in Tennessee will go toward the Spring Hill manufacturing plant. We all know about that. GM will add production to the gas-powered Chevrolet Blazer at Spring Hill starting in 2027, alongside the Cadillac Lyriq and Vistic EVs. So you've got the Blazer, the Cadillac Lyriq, the Vistic EV, and the Cadillac XT5 are all going to be manufactured at Spring Hill. And again, a good deal of money being put into these investments by General Motors and others. Orion Assembly Township in Michigan will begin production on gas-powered SUVs, and GM will put some money into its Fairfax Assembly facility in Kansas City, Kansas. We believe the future of transportation will be driven by American innovation and manufacturing expertise. Today's announcement demonstrates our ongoing commitment to build vehicles in the U.S. and support American jobs. We're focused on giving customers choice and offering a broad range of vehicles that they love. This is Mary Barra, the chair and CEO of GM, someone who was very much in favor of electric cars, wanted to go full in on the electric vehicles. It just turned out there was one problem with that. Americans did not want a lot of electric vehicles. They're just not ready for them. Haven't worked through all the issues that will make them, I think, wildly popular someday perhaps, but not today. We're not ready. We don't have the infrastructure. We don't have the charging stations. We don't have the grid to support all of that. And so the bridge needs to be, I think the best bridge is hybrid. But one way or the other, isn't it great news that we have companies like GM investing here in America rather than, building these vehicles in Mexico or in Canada? We're building them here in the United States. That brings us jobs. That brings us, a great deal of tax revenue, etc. All of these things, these very positive developments mean that Trump is doing exactly what he promised to do, get the economy up and running again. And Democrats can sit there and they can talk about, well, it's gonna cost us in inflation and things are going to go up dramatically. You know what? You can keep saying it, but so far the evidence suggests that will not be the case. And if we can just get the big, beautiful bill passed and keep the tax cuts in place and do some of the things that are in that measure, you'll see this economy stand up on its tippy toes and do exactly what it should do. We're going to once again be the most powerful economy in the world. Once again, we're going to be able to do things in America that others can't do. And it's all coming together. The plan is working. It's absolutely working. I don't know why the Democrats keep trying to down talk the economy. It's like they're very disappointed that the economy is doing pretty well. It's not going to get any. It's going to get better and better and better as we go forward. And the Democrats, you can continue to try to talk down the economy, but the evidence suggests it's working, winning. 50 minutes now past the hour of 9 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7.
Iran now says more than 80 people have been killed in last night's airstrikes, and we've got the latest on how they were carried out by Israel. That's coming up here at 10 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Well, I just got word that both Dan Mandis and Matt Murphy are now downtown at the courthouse, and we'll go to them in a few minutes at the top of the hour to see what's going on with this arraignment of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, and the more importantly, I think for most people, concerned about whether or not there are going to be any protest in downtown, any serious protest. I saw a Channel 5 helicopter shot a moment ago, and looked like, maybe 100 people were down there. I don't know, but we'll get a complete readout from Dan and Matt. They'll be both reporting from the scene in just a short while, so hang on to that. And again, we're watching the White House today. We're expecting that in about a few minutes that there will be a meeting of the President's National Security Council. Whether or not there'll be pictures, whether there'll be some comment from the president, seems likely that would be the case. We're watching that as well. As, we had an overnight raid where Israel attacked Iran, region very tense at the moment. While we have just a moment or two before we had to go to our news at the top of the hour, what an amazing story about this guy who was only one of 242 people aboard a Dreamliner 787-8 to survive that crash in India. His name is Vishwash Kumar Ramesh, and he apparently was sitting in seat 11A, and that was apparently an exit row. And he said, look, we crashed. On the other side of the plane, it was smashed in. He said, when my door broke open, I ran out. And when my door broke, I saw there was some space that I could try to get out. The other side, the people couldn't get out as it was crushed against a wall. Ramesh is a British citizen returning to England after vacationing in India, along with his brother and their younger brother, who the passengers list showed were seated in 11J on the right side of the plane, and they did not survive. One side of the plane, he survived. The other side of the plane, they did not survive. I'm telling you, what a remarkable thing. And you always say, well, where's the safest place to be? What's the safest place to be when you are on a plane? And if there's going to be a crash, some people say the tail section. Some people say, the front of plane. I think it depends. I think Dan Mandis got it right. It depends on the kind of crash and how it goes down. But one way or the other, Vishwash Kumar Ramesh, only one of 242 people to have survived that incredible crash of a 787. By the way, there has never been a crash of a 787-8 Dreamliner until now. This is the first one. Relatively good safety record with that particular aircraft. What caused it, I don't know. It looks like the plane lost power shortly after takeoff and just could never regain enough speed to remain airborne. What was it? Was it flaps? Was it something else? We don't know. But one way or the other, the investigation is underway. It's time now for the news at 10 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. On the other side, we'll talk to Dan Mandis and Matt Murphy about what's going on down at the federal courthouse. Stay with us, everyone. You're listening to The Chris Hand Show on Super Talk 99.7.
Good morning. I'm Joan Jones with your top stories, and we're learning more today about how Israel carried out the initial wave of attacks on Iran's nuclear and ballistic missile facilities.
An Israeli security source tells ABC this morning that Mossad, which is Israel's covert intelligence agency, had entered Iran long before last night's attack and set up a secret drone base. And when the attack began last night, those explosive drones were remotely activated to target Iranian surface-to-surface missile launchers at a military base near Tehran.
That's ABC's Martha Raddatz. Israel also confirming that the top Iranian military commanders who were killed in last night's airstrikes were together because they had been tricked into a meeting. President Trump is meeting with his national security team at this hour at the White House. In New Jersey, 4 illegal immigrants who were being detained at an ICE facility are missing. They were able to slip out, apparently, after a riot broke out and where detainees took control of parts of that facility. ABC's Jaysha Patel.
At some point, security allegedly lost track of 4 detainees. This morning, we don't know their status or if they're even inside of the facility. But family members who had scheduled appointments to visit detainees yesterday were not allowed to go inside and see them.
This happened at that same facility, the Delaney Hall Detention Facility, where the Newark City mayor and 2 Democrat congresswomen staged a confrontation with ICE agents last month. Staying in New Jersey, there's progress to report with the issues that have plagued Newark Liberty Airport. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy saying one of the runways that had been under construction is finished now, ahead of schedule.
We also had an issue with how our software program had a glitch in it. So that software at the Philly Tracon was remedied, was fixed, and things have been operating relatively smoothly at Newark.
Work is still underway on a fiber optic line. And buying a Tesla will set you back a little more now. Tesla announcing a price hike for its Model S and Model X vehicles after enhancements to the car that include better battery range and improved aerodynamics. Those features will add $5,000. So now the Model X starts at $85,000 and the Model X starts at $90,000. Unrest in the Mideast causing a problem on Wall Street today. Dow Jones Industrials down 561, NASDAQ falling 174. We've got the S&P down 46 points. That's the latest news. Weather is up next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News.
Well, good morning, everybody. It's about 5 minutes past the hour of 10 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in the chair and on the air, filling in for Chris Hand today. He'll be back on Monday. And we've got a lot of things going on right now. We're watching the White House, so we're expecting the president will be meeting with his national security advisors, his national security team in the next few moments to discuss what happened overnight. If you have not heard, Israel attacked Iran, and the region is very tense. How is the United States going to respond? What's going to happen next? If we have the president speaking from the White House, we'll of course go there. The other story locally here at the courthouse, we have the arraignment of Kilmar Abrego Garcia. This was the man who is accused by the government of being a human trafficker, stopped in 2022 by the Tennessee Highway Patrol, who thought pretty sure they had a case of human smuggling, but then let him go at the request of the FBI. Now he's back facing arraignment on those charges, and it'll be interesting to see what happens. Joining me on the hotline right now, because there's supposed to be some protests down there, we got Matt Murphy and Dan Mandis, who are watching the events there. Gentlemen, we got you on the phone. Just sort of set the scene. Matt, I'll start with you. What do you see? Is this going to be a big turnout, or is it going to be just a few people and a lot of reporters?
I just walked across the street from the Fred Thompson Federal Courthouse because it really is very loud in the courthouse square, as you might expect. Liberal protesters enjoy chanting very much, and they enjoy being very loud, and they're doing both in abundance. I would say there's probably, somewhere in the neighborhood of 250 or so protesters, many of whom holding homemade signs and some signs that look to be made elsewhere. And they are all very, very upset, seemingly, at the detention of Kilmar Abrego Garcia. Most of them, and the general sentiment that I'm getting from the protesters in the crowd, the speakers are very difficult to hear. I'm learning a few things about liberal protest, Brian. One of the things I'm learning is they don't have very good PA systems. They could learn a thing or two from you, Brian, because they're very difficult to hear. But the couple of sentiments that I got, they really like saying the F word a lot. It really doesn't matter what happens after the F word, whether it's Trump or ICE or, whatever. And they seem to be very frustrated that they don't believe that Abrego Garcia is getting, quote, due process. And some of the people that I've talked to in the crowd, when I ask them, well, isn't this an example of the due process that you claim that you want to see? They either look at me funny and walk away, or say, well, no, these were trumped up charges that were made up by Trump and ICE to avoid the fact that they didn't give him due process to begin with. So that's the general sense of what we're getting down here in front of the courthouse. A lot of loudness, a lot of passion, and that's about it from my perspective.
And so far, everyone is being well behaved.
Everyone seems to be fairly well behaved. There's a good Metro Nashville police presence. There's a good federal presence, as you might expect, at the federal courthouse, and everyone seems to be behaved. There's a lot of people wearing masks. I've been passed out. I'm dressed. I must be dressed appropriately enough, Brian, that people think that I might be a protester myself, because I've had several pamphlets given to me. One is entitled "What's Wrong with ICE?" and another is entitled "It's Fascism, Start Acting Like It." So I've gotten a number of pamphlets.
Stand by there. I'm going to check in with Dan Mandis, who's also. Do you have Dan in your sight?
Not yet seen Dan, but here.
All right,
I'm here.
All right, Dan, tell me what you see from your vantage point.
Well, the signs are kind of comical, to be honest with you. But talking about, talking to the crowd, I did see one person with a sign talking about how Trump is, you can't make this stuff up, guys, how Trump is destroying free speech as they're at a protest. So this is
they're
kind
at
of
a protest where they are they are using their First Amendment rights to protest, and somehow the president is stopping free speech.
That's the mentality, guys. Let's see here. Some of the signs, Jesus was a refugee. Okay. I drink my horchata warm because F ICE is another one. Send the Trump administration to CCOT, which is another one. So you do have a lot of folks here. I think Matt is right. I think you got about 250 people here. They do like to utilize the F-bomb. as a matter of fact. And earlier they were talking about Andy Ogles, and they were also talking about what happened to Alex Padilla, Senator Alex Padilla, saying that he was thrown to the ground for just asking questions, which we all know is complete and utter BS. So I better get overtime for this, guys. But anyway, I'm here just in the midst of all of these protests.
Well, let me ask you both a question. I mean, do you get the sense that this is going to remain peaceful? I mean, is it one of those situations where there actually are probably more reporters than there are protesters, or have the protesters made a pretty? I mean, give me some sense of the size of the crowd, Dan.
No, I mean, it's a sizable crowd. I mean, like I say, I think 200 people is a fair estimation, even if you take away the large number of media presence here, Brian. But I have gotten the feeling, and I don't know why I had this feeling, but I said to Dan earlier this morning, I've gotten the feeling that this will be your peaceful protest. It will be loud. There will be chants, plenty of that. And I get the feeling that nothing will go on unlawfully until the crowd disperses. But I just get the general feeling that if we see any lawlessness in Nashville, it's going to be during the No Kings protest tomorrow. I just have the feeling that this will be loud. It'll be boisterous. They'll scream. They'll yell. They'll throw the F-bomb out there quite a bit. And then they'll kind of kindly disperse. That's just the general feeling I get.
And you think tomorrow's going to be the bigger day, right? Well, let me ask you, the law enforcement, how are they postured? I mean, I remember during the BLM riots when, we made a decision, an active decision on behalf of the Nashville Police Department to not put the troops that had the riot gear where the protest was, to keep them back. What kind of posture do we see? Are they suited up? Do they have the helmets? Do they have the riot gear? Or are we talking about a police force that is largely, what we see on a regular basis when they're on patrol?
I will tell you, and I don't know about you, Matt, I see all of 2 police officers. It says police DHS, and they're laughing. They're not in riot gear, and they're just watching as everyone practices their, right to free speech. I don't actually see a lot of other police officers. I mean, maybe there are. Maybe there's.
I think they're
somewhere around. I don't see them.
So I see, but from my vantage point, Brian, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 police officers that have Homeland Security vests on, and then we see a lot of uniforms across the street. They're kind of laying back. A lot of bicycle police officers across the street at the Homewood Suite.
See, now that's exactly what happened during the BLM riots. They put those folks, the people who were actually, loaded up and ready for bear, several blocks away. And then when things started to go, sideways, and they tried to set fire to the courthouse, they didn't have the right people in the right place to handle that. It took them a while to get them over there. And it seems like they've done the same thing this time.
Yeah, I did speak to one of the officers earlier before the crowds got swelled up and got a little larger, and I asked him if they were anticipating anything raucous. And he said, yeah, I mean, we're ready for it. We try to identify those people within the crowd that we might think would cause us problems. And those folks are easily identifiable, Brian. I mean, I'm looking at a lot of grandmas. I'm looking at a lot of 60-year-old liberal white women. I mean, frankly, that's what a lot of the crowd is comprised of. But then there are some elements within the crowd that are dressed in all black, that are all masked up, that have drums, that have backpacks full of pamphlets and other items, who knows what. Those are the people that I think the officers are kind of honing in on and identifying as possible rabble-rousers after the fact.
All right, and so we await to see what happens inside the courthouse with Kelmar Abrego Garcia, Dan Mandis, and Matt Murphy there. So it sounds as if this is going to be a relatively calm day, but you're right, I think, Matt, to point out that it's after the protest that things can sort of, devolve, as it were.
Yeah, one of the organizers of the event, I was overhearing him intentionally talk about the list of speakers that they have, and I think they have 6 or 8 speakers from the Democrat Socialist Party of America and some other, Antifa, I think, not by name, but in fact, an organized member of Antifa was going to speak. So after those speakers get done, I'm very curious as to what the crowd does with itself. Yeah.
One of the things I've noticed, Matt, too, you're talking about the really bad sound equipment. I I don't think the majority of these people know what is being said. They just know that they're supposed to cheer when they stop.
No, I agree. I mean, I was standing. Dan
Well,
is more. I can see.
You sent in a sound clip, but this is what it sounds like. I can't make out what they're saying.
So that sounds like no justice, no peace.
No justice, no peace. Well, I mean, I can't even make that out. And that's
Well,
they're getting
earlier,
really
I don't know, Dad, if you noticed this, but earlier they couldn't decide whether they were chanting "No justice, no peace" or "More justice, more peace." There was
they were totally confused.
They were kind of doing both, and then they were trying to fix it. Are we going to say no justice? Or are we going to say more justice? So you would think that people that love chanting so much would at least get the chants right.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that tells you why these folks out here today, and I think Matt is absolutely right. These aren't the professional folks. I do believe that is going to be happening probably tomorrow, but not right now. I think Matt was right. These are all a bunch of grandmas and that kind of thing. A lot of people in masks as well. But by the way, the highlight of my day thus far has been somebody asking me if I wanted to hold a sign. I'm like, no, I'm good, man. Thanks, though.
Thank you. I'm just here to watch.
Yeah,
That's right. Yeah, well, listen, this is going to be very interesting, and I think you're right. I think it seems like everything is being sort of ginned up for tomorrow. I mean, we got potentially that big parade in Washington D.C. If it goes forward, and as far as I know, it looks like it's going forward. They're gonna be a protest there. There'll be no doubt there'll be protests there. There'll be protests all over the country in a big way. But the question is, will the organized protesters who like to cause trouble, the so-called anarchists, will they be in presence here in Nashville? It seems with we having a major part of the story with Kilmar, it could well be that some of those people will show up. But one way or the other, I think tomorrow is going to be the bigger day, is what it sounds like.
Yeah, it's what it feels like to me, too. I don't know exactly how long this program will go on, but it certainly will be here until it winds down, Brian, and then we'll watch as some of the protesters disperse. The big moment of my day was getting to say hello to Phil Williams, who likes to diss me on a regular basis. So I'm going to go talk to cowardly Phil and see if he has anything to say about the protest, and I'll report back to you if he does, Brian.
All right, sounds very good. Dan Mandis and Matt Murphy will be there. And guys, just call in, and if you got something to report, we'll go to you right away. Again, also watching the White House today. There is this. You can turn those phones down if you want to for a little bit, Louis. If they have something to report, keep them in queue and let me know. A commander with the Metro Nashville Police Department says that his precinct is prepared if unannounced actions occur in protest during the arraignment today. Commander Ricky Bearden shared that MNPD is aware of planned protests during the arraignment, the ones that we're talking about now. Our downtown area, particularly around the federal courthouse, will see an increase of persons and vehicles compared to a typical day. In addition to media, there may be persons present to protest. Please know that our police department supports peaceful and lawful protest and assemblies. We fully expect any activities related to the court case to be peaceful and orderly, and we hope that will indeed be the case. But it sounds like they are prepared if things do spiral out of control. I remember, the BLM protest, which started out as legitimate protests. And then as things started to break up, it turned into more of a riot until we ended up in a situation where rioters were trying to set the courthouse, the Davidson County Courthouse, on fire. And what I'm sort of shocked by is that in that particular case, the police department put their troops that were in riot gear some blocks away from where the action was, not wanting to antagonize or to increase the situation. And as it turned out, when the situation started to go sideways and things, and the Molotov cocktails were flying, the riot gear had to be brought in, and they had to get the bike people out of the way because they weren't properly prepared to handle it. So we're watching all of this very closely this morning downtown. Dan Mandis and Matt Murphy on the scene. Brian Wilson in the studio. You're listening to the Chris Hand Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Got an update from ABC News on the airstrikes that hit Iran overnight. Also, the protesters are out in downtown Nashville as an illegal immigrant is being arraigned on federal charges inside the courthouse. That and more coming up here at 10:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
to work.
Oh no, not work. I care so much.
So you don't care about stopping black people from going to work?
Look at this line that you guys are causing. I'm not causing no problems. I'm not trying to.
I mean, this is why it's not working for the Democrats. I mean, they're out there doing things that just irritate most of Americans who are, I mean, there's a small cadre of people out there in America who are absolutely on board with what they're doing, but they are not the majority of Americans. And, I don't understand, these protests and the idea, well, we're going to shut down the streets so that people can't go to work. How is that going to work out for them long term? Doesn't that alienate people? It doesn't cause you to be ingratiated to their cause. It causes you to be alienated. Get out of my road. Let me go to my work. Let me go to my job. And then the guy says, oh, work. Well, this No Kings rally that's going to happen all over the country is going to happen in several of our areas in the Nashville area. From WSMV, a nationwide call to action is set to be carried out on Saturday in the form of thousands of protests across the country. It's called the No Kings Rally. The rally is an organized effort sponsored by multiple nonprofit organizations to protest the recent immigration and customs enforcement activity and federal cuts nationwide. Locally, in the mid-state, we're talking about Nashville, Murfreesboro, Gallatin, and some other places. Nashville's protest is set for 10 a.m. on the Bicentennial Mall. Preparations are in place. Metro Police has put 2 of their mobile surveillance units at one at each end of the mall. The units are typically placed in areas where crime tends to happen or for public events such as community activities and protests. We are here to take a stand and say that we are not going to accept this in our city, in our state, because we bow to no king. Okay. Kristi Noem made it very clear in her press conference, the one where she was interrupted by Padilla, before she was interrupted, which is what everybody was talking about yesterday. She said, we're just not going to tolerate people who get in our way.
We did see before that assaults against law enforcement and ICE officers go up over 400%. In this situation, we've seen that increase even more. It's not acceptable. If you assault a law enforcement officer, we are going to come after you and we are going to arrest you, prosecute you, and put you away. That is not going to work. And under this administration with President Trump's leadership, one person is not better than another. Just because you think you're here as a citizen or because you're a member of a certain group or you're not a citizen, it doesn't mean that you're going to be protected and not face consequences from the laws that this country stands for. We have a constitution. We follow that constitution and the laws that have been passed by our Congress, and we're going to make sure they are equally applied to every single person as it applies under the Constitution here in Los Angeles, but also across the country. As our law enforcement officers have been assaulted, they've been pelted with rocks and bricks. Their cars have been set on fire. Molotov cocktails have been used. We have seen people throw bottles and hammers at them. We've also seen that they have been attacked and verbally spit on or punched or assaulted, and it's just not acceptable. The Department of Homeland Security and the officers and the agencies and the departments and the military people that are working on this operation will continue to sustain and increase our operations in this city. We are not going away.
Not going away. And so we'll see how this all develops. I mean, it sounds like things are relatively calm. Spirited protest, but calm down at the federal courthouse, the Fred Thompson Courthouse right now. In just a few moments, after the news with Joan Jones, we will check in with Dan Mandis and Matt Murphy, who are both down there, to get one more take on how things are going. Also watching, of course, the White House at this hour, the president meeting with his national security team after Israel has taken an attack against Iran. Region is very tense. The United States watching, to see what happens next. A lot of things going on today. We'll try to keep you up to date and up to speed right now. Let's check in with Joan Jones and get a sense of what's going on in the rest of the news.
Good morning. I'm Joan Jones with your top stories now. We've got the latest information on Israel's strike on Iran with ABC News.
This is a special report from ABC News. I'm Sherry Preston. IDF spokesman Effie Deffen says Israel had no choice but to strike Iran and strike hard this week.
We cannot allow the Iranian regime to obtain a nuclear weapon that would be a danger to Israel and the entire world.
President Trump telling ABC's Jonathan Karl he thinks Iran will return to the negotiating committee on nuclear proliferation.
He is still insisting that the solution here is a diplomatic one. He was on Truth Social earlier this morning saying Iran must make a deal before there is nothing left and save what was once known as the Iranian Empire. No more death, no more destruction.
Talks between the U.S. and Iran, scheduled for Sunday, will continue, even though Tehran says it has no intention of participating. After the initial Israeli strikes hitting nuclear facilities and top generals, Iran struck back, firing at least 100 drones into Israel. This is ABC News.
Other news, a gathering of about 250 people now staging a protest outside the federal courthouse in downtown Nashville. And they're busy chanting. They're also holding signs, but for now, they're peaceful. Inside the courthouse, Kilmar Abrego Garcia is being arraigned on human trafficking and conspiracy charges. That is the latest news. Weather's up next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News.
It's 35 minutes now past the hour of 10 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Chris Hand off today. I'm Brian Wilson filling in on a very, very, very busy news day. We have two stories that we are watching very closely. One is the White House, where we're looking for reaction from the Trump administration on what Israel did last night, a big attack against Iran. The region is in heightened alert, and we're trying to find out what's going to be next. President meeting with his national security team. We're looking for any kind of comment that comes out of the White House on that. We will go to that if we have it. In the meantime, down at the courthouse, the Fred Thompson Federal Courthouse, a protest is underway while we're awaiting the arraignment of Kilmar Abrego Garcia on human trafficking charges and how that's going to be worked out. Will he be released on bond? What would happen then? And then the big protest. We have Matt Murphy and Dan Mandis who were down there at the protest. Maybe we can tap into one of them. Louis, do we have any of those guys ready? Okay, we're working on that. We'll get them to come in just for a few moments and give us sort of a readout. A lot of protests so far. It's been okay. Let's talk. There's Dan Mandis now on the line. Dan, what are you seeing there, and what have you been going on there in the last few minutes?
Hey, Brian. Well, I'll tell you that there is a lot of folks here, but I'm going to tell you, like, as far as rallies go and protests go, leaves a lot to be desired because and I said this last time, you just can't hear what they're saying. It's like I don't even know. It's like a bad Saturday morning at a used car place remote. The great thing though is, Brian, is that this rally out here has been infiltrated by some WTN listeners.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've had several come up to me and just say, just very, very quietly, it's like, hey, are you Dan Mandis? So they wanted to come out and check it out. And I will tell you, this is not mostly peaceful. It is all peaceful. And so you got a bunch of people up there that are just, they're making speeches. You have a lot of folks that are just carrying American flags. We talked about the signs earlier. The Trump administration needs to be deported. They need to go to, CCOT and the whole thing. So, but, I mean, by and large, you have the folks that are here, about 250 or so. And I'm going to be honest, I don't know how long this is going to go because it already, and you can get Matt's idea on this, it just kind of feels like it's already running out of steam because nobody can hear what the audio is because it's just the audio system is so bad.
And are we still dropping F-bombs left and right? Because we got to be careful.
No, not here. Not lately. The reason the F-bombs were being thrown was because there was a guy who was here that I would describe as a counter protester. And so he came in and Matt may have seen more of it, but it may have been, something where they didn't like what a sign said. And so they started in with probably a 2 or 3 minute FU chant. And then some people were screaming, don't give him oxygen, and so forth. So, everybody's just doing their speeches and, a lot of this stuff is, for talk show hosts, it's low-hanging fruit because they're talking about how Senator Alex Padilla, he was, thrown on the ground and arrested for, simply asking a question, which we all know is not true. Free Kilmar, which is silly because, of course, he's up on these charges. So a lot of this stuff seems to me just to be, leftist protester talking points and talking, and chants. That's what it is to me.
All right. Well, apparently he has pleaded not guilty and has been officially arraigned. We're still waiting for details of all that according to WKRN-TV. All right. So there we have that. Is Matt Murphy available?
He was going to be calling in. You might want to check and see if the lines are ringing because Matt might be there because I know that he was going to call.
All right, we're waiting on that call to come in right now. All right, so if Matt calls in, we'll go to him in the next few minutes. So there we have it. Looks like it's going to be mostly a peaceful thing. Looks like this thing is going to be, not all that in a bag of chips. We're going to have some protests, peaceful, but it seems like if there's going to be trouble, maybe it will be later in the process, maybe tomorrow when they do the No Kings rally. So we'll keep tabs on all of that. This is an interesting story. If we get Matt Murphy, just let me know. Just interrupt, okay? When police in Mount Juliet are celebrating success in catching suspects, writes Fox 17, they mention their license plate readers. Now, look, I've been watching this story forever. Mount Juliet has a very effective system where they use the license plate readers and they take criminals off the street. And everybody's saying, well, Nashville needs to have the same thing. And there's been a real protest and a little disagreement between some members of the council and the police department, which says this would help us, and the council members who say we don't want it. And it sounds like we got the mayor now saying that part of the problem is that with the things that are going on with regard to trying to crack down on immigration, the LPRs are not likely to get favorable consideration by the council. Matt Murphy's now on the line to talk a little bit more about what he is seeing down there from his perspective. Hello, Matt.
Hello, Brian. No doubt the protest continues, and it is just that. It is a robust protest. It's very difficult to hear what the folks on the PA are saying because you can't really understand any of them. Once again, I reiterate, get some sound engineers in your group, and I think you would be more effective in whatever messaging you're trying to send. But yeah, like we say, there's just the crowd of maybe 150 folks. I think it's gone down in size a little bit, frankly. Honestly, the whatever speeches are being made don't seem to be rousing the crowd in any form or fashion. They're talking about, it's an anti-capitalist message. They're saying the system is rigged. Donald Trump is a fascist. Donald Trump is a dictator. I'm not really hearing a lot of new things. Plus, they are demanding, and this is the ironic thing, Brian, they're demanding that Kilmar Abrego Garcia get due process, that he deserves due process. And when I have selectively picked out a few in the crowd and politely reminded them that that's exactly what he's getting inside of the federal courthouse right now, as he has already pled not guilty to the charges against him, they tell me that, all of this is made up, this isn't real justice, and that he needs to be released. So I don't really know what their message is. They want due process, but they want him released immediately without due process, Brian. That's the basic message from the protesters here in downtown Nashville.
This is, it sounds like things are going to be relatively calm today. It looks like it's going to be moved on. He has apparently pleaded not guilty to human smuggling charges in federal court. That, according to the Associated Press now as well. And so, it looks like you can still face I'm trying to find out if they have set bail or not. I can't imagine that they would, but we'll watch that, see if we get some details on that. But he has said not guilty in court and outside. The protest continue, but if you can't hear what the people are saying, it's not a very effective protest.
Well, the crowd swells in terms of their enthusiasm when the chants start, Brian. When we can get a good no justice, no peace, or more justice, no peace, or this is what democracy looks like, always a big one. There was one counter protester who was standing outside of the crowd, and when a "this is what democracy looks like" chant got going, he started yelling, "Trump won, that's democracy," and the crowd didn't like that very much. They didn't like being reminded that Donald Trump won. So we'll keep apprised of what's going on down here and check in if anything interesting happens for you, Brian.
All right. Thank you very much, Matt Murphy and Dan Mandis from the scene down there at the Fred Thompson Federal Courthouse watching the protest. We didn't know what was going to happen this morning. We didn't know how big it was going to be. There are 2 days of protests that we are watching very closely. One is today. Looks like that's going to be relatively low key, maybe 150 people protesting, and what they're protesting about, hard to know because we can't understand them. But one way or the other, that will happen. Then tomorrow, this No Kings Day is supposed to be a nationwide protest to coincide the military parade in Washington, D.C. that's supposed to take place. So, what may happen? They say that Nashville and Murfreesboro and Gallatin, among other places, will have protests tomorrow as well. And the question is, is it going to be peaceful protest, or is things going to get out of control? And what kind of arrangements have been made? The police are holding back, not needed right now? Are there police with the riot gear standing by somewhere if they're needed? That's one of the questions we will try to get an answer to. And then I remember during the BLM protest, things got out of control and they brought in the state patrol. The state patrol was positioned nearby if needed. I remember that very distinctly. So will that happen as well? One way or the other. Interesting developments in Nashville today as we await more details about the arraignment of Kilmar Abrego Garcia. And we are again watching what's happening at the White House, where we have new details about what's happening with regard to Israel and Iran. It's an ongoing operation. Will go for several days. The idea is to deprive Iran of its nuclear weapons capability and its ability to process nuclear material for those weapons. We are told that the general sense of it was that if Iran wanted to manufacture a nuclear weapon, they could have 11 nuclear weapons within a matter of days. That's how close they have gotten to having a nuclear weapon. Israel immensely threatened if they were to get a nuclear weapon. The President of the United States saying, look, a lot of things can happen here, but the one thing that can't happen is that Iran can't get a nuclear weapon. So the conversation now going on between the White House and what's going on, Benjamin Netanyahu, the president, and Benjamin Netanyahu have spoken recently in last couple of days about this, and there may be another conversation. And the president is meeting right now with his national security team to get the very latest information on that. We have not heard any public statements from the president beyond some things on Truth Social. Certainly has not made an appearance before cameras yet today, but if that happens, we will go to that. So a couple of big stories. I mean, it's just like, it's almost like you can't keep up with all the news that's going on. The protests that we have in L.A., will they spread in a much bigger way to other communities around the country? That's an open question. What will happen tomorrow in Nashville? That's an open question. All of this is all tied in. And then the second story is what's going on in the Middle East. I got a couple of sound bites I want to run. First of all, let's go back and revisit very quickly. Senator Padilla. Kristi Noem is giving a speech. She's talking about how we're not going to tolerate, interruptions. We're not going to tolerate violent protest. And then at the very end, Senator Padilla, the U.S. Senator from the state of California, Alex Padilla, tried to break in and take over the press conference, and it did not go well for him.
So I want to say thank you to every single person that has been able to do this. Also, I want to talk specifically
I have questions for the secretary, because the fact of the matter is a half a dozen violent criminals that are rotating on your.
I also want to talk about specifically how many of our ICE agents...
And he was rushed out of the room and actually forced to the ground and handcuffed before they realized, oh, this is a sitting United States senator. It was resolved, apparently. We had a meeting between Padilla and Kristi Noem in which they didn't come to much agreement, but they at least had a conversation, exchanged phone numbers, etc. But, what was he up to? Well, he was looking for that moment. He was looking for that moment of confrontation. He was looking for that moment of conflict. He believes this plays out well for them, but honestly, I just don't understand what the Democrats are thinking about. When they think this works for them, it doesn't work for them. The vast majority of Americans are not in favor of the protest and the violence and the rock throwing and the tear gas and all of that. They don't like it, and they don't look at the police as the bad guys. They look at the protesters as the bad guys by and large. A small group making a lot of noise, creating all kinds of havoc, and we're not done with it yet. It's 50 minutes now past the hour of 10 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7.
Kilmar Abrego Garcia has entered a not guilty plea to human smuggling charges in a federal court in downtown Nashville. We're covering that story for you. Israel's attack on Iran, and the family of the sole survivor of that Indian plane crash is talking about it. Hear all this and more at 11 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hey, looky there, looky there, looky there. It's Ken Weaver in the newsroom.
My big buddy, Brian Wilson.
How are you, Ken? Good
I'm
to hear
doing
your
good,
voice.
brother. How are you?
Very busy news day. I mean, I don't know how you're keeping up with all of it. There's so much going on right now. He'll have the news at the top of the hour. We do have a story from the Associated Press suggesting that Kilmar Abrego Garcia has indeed pleaded not guilty.
Yes, sir.
So, to human smuggling charges, here's the story from the Associated Press. Citizen of El Salvador, been living illegally in the United States. His case was becoming a rallying point for opposition to President Trump's mass deportation agenda. Oh, boy, this is very favorable to him. He could face a lengthy prison sentence. He's accused of transporting hundreds of people over many years, and the maximum sentence for transporting each person, 10 years. So from what I understand, the Justice Department believes they have a very strong case here.
Yeah, that would put him in prison the rest of his life.
That's the way it looks to me. The protest, not all that much today. Looking like we might have more protests tomorrow for the No Kings Day. But this one turned out to be not much. 100 people, apparently, according to Dan and to Matt. The biggest problem, you couldn't understand anything that the protesters were saying. You couldn't understand a single word. Well, it's hard to get people all, riled up at a protest if you can't hear what they're saying.
Yeah, one of the clips I was watching, some of the protesters were actually shouting at the speakers that they couldn't hear them. Pretty soon they're going to start protesting the speakers.
The most important thing is sound in any kind of public event.
Yeah.
You've got to have. It's like. We have our protest. We have our signs. Yeah. Do you have a PA system that will work? Seems like it ought to be right at the top of the list.
Let's go ask WTN if they'll help us.
I'm telling you, it is surprising how little thought is often given at events when they're planning. And this isn't just protests, just events in general. Oh, I guess we're going to need a little sound system, aren't we? Guess we're going to need some audio. Going to need a PA system. Nobody thinks about it till the last minute. So anyway, that's what's going on there. Well, Ken will have all of the details in a moment. I want to play this soundbite very quickly. Caroline Leavitt is just so much fun to watch during these briefings. She doesn't suffer fools gladly. And she was asked a question about whether or not the president was for or against peaceful protest. And she didn't like the tone or tenor of the question, and she gave it right back to the reporter.
The president absolutely supports peaceful protests. He supports the First Amendment. He supports the right of Americans to make their voices heard. He does not support violence of any kind. He does not support assaulting law enforcement officers who are simply trying to do their job. It's very clear for the president what he supports and what he does not. Unfortunately for Democrats, that line has not been made clear, and they've allowed this unrest and this violence to continue, and the president has had to step in.
So if there were peaceful protests on Saturday for the militant parade, President Trump would allow that?
Of course the president supports peaceful protests. What a stupid question.
What a stupid question. I mean, that there have been a lot of press secretaries who wanted to say it from time to time.
Of course the president supports peaceful protests. What a stupid question. Rick Kelly.
I can't imagine what it's like to be in that briefing room right now. I think it'd be a lot of fun to watch. But boy, she takes no prisoners, does she?
No. And you've been there, Brian. You covered presidents for years, man.
Yeah, I've never seen anybody who just lays it out like it. That was about the stupidest question I've ever heard. I'm sure they've thought it, but they never said it until now. All right, time for the news at 11 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in for Chris Hann.
11 o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. We've got the full forecast in 5 minutes. And right now in Nashville, Kilmar Abrego Garcia has pleaded not guilty to the federal human smuggling charges against him in federal court. The Salvadoran had been living in Maryland when he was deported to his home country in March. Then after pressure to return Abrego to the U.S. for what Democrats are saying is needed due process, the Trump administration brought him back last week to face 2 indictments, accusing him of being an MS-13 gang member while transporting hundreds of illegal immigrants across the U.S. over a decade. He could serve 10 years in prison for each person trafficked if convicted.
Do you know who Sakir
The charges
Khan is?
stem from a 2022 traffic stop in Tennessee where Abrego was driving a vehicle with 8 passengers, which state troopers believe to be human trafficking. But when they checked in with the FBI, the Biden FBI told them, let them go. Well, tomorrow will be another day of protesting in Nashville. They've got a couple of dozen down there at the federal courthouse for Abrego Garcia. Tomorrow will be another day, but a different reason. The so-called No Kings protests to mirror those taking place around the country, just as President Trump puts on a huge military parade to celebrate the U.S. Army. Well, State Senate Majority Leader Jack Johnson telling WTN's Matt Murphy, peaceful protests are welcome, but rioters will be arrested and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law.
Our incredible folks at the Department of Homeland Security, Tennessee Department of Safety, Highway Patrol, TBI, they are obviously monitoring all of that. I'm sure the Metro Police are doing the same.
Metro Police have set up mobile surveillance cameras at Bicentennial Mall Park, where a protest is scheduled for 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. Last night's all-out attack on Iran by Israel, apparently not the end of it. President Trump telling ABC News this morning there's more to come. Here's Mary Bruce on what to expect in Washington today.
The president this morning is set to meet with his National Security Council in the Situation Room. And this morning, he still seems to be holding out hope that somehow these nuclear talks can be salvaged, posting just a short while ago, urging Tehran to come to the table, saying Iran must make a deal before there is nothing left, adding, just do it before it is too late.
Responses to the attack from world leaders, including Turkish President Erdogan, calling Israel's attack, quote, reckless, aggressive, and lawless. Well, the family of the sole survivor of that Indian plane crash is talking about it, I should say. Here's Sherry Preston.
Vishwash Kumar Ramesh says it was a normal conversation between his brother, Vishwa, and their father right before the plane went down.
When he was on the runway, my dad called him, and Vishwa said, oh, we're going to take off soon. And then literally like 2 minutes later, he video called my dad. As he crashed, he said, our plane's crashed.
Ramesh calls it a miracle that his brother not only survived, but got up and walked away from the crash site. Their other brother was also on board and is believed to have died. Sherry Preston, ABC News.
That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Good morning, everybody. It's Brian Wilson in for Chris Hand. Chris taking a day off, and will be back on Monday. I will be back, I think, later in the month to fill in for Chris while he takes some vacation time. But good to be with you here on a very busy news day. Let's just recap the two big stories. There is a protest going on down at the Fred Thompson Federal Courthouse. Excuse me. And it apparently, is not much of a protest. It all has to do with Kilmar Abrego Garcia and his arraignment. And here's what we know about that. According to the Associated Press, Kilmar Abrego Garcia pleaded not guilty to human smuggling charges during an arraignment in federal court in Tennessee on Friday. Facing mounting pressure to return Abrego Garcia to the U.S., the Trump administration brought him back last week. However, he was immediately taken into custody on new criminal charges filed by the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Middle District of Tennessee. In court filings, prosecutors accused him of being a dangerous member of the notorious MS-13 gang, but the charges against him are only for transporting people who were in the country illegally. He could face a lengthy prison sentence. He is accused of transporting hundreds of people over many years, and the maximum sentence for transporting each person is 10 years. So he could be facing, if convicted, quite a good run in prison. And there were protests, but it was peaceful protest, mostly confused protest because nobody could understand what the protesters were saying. That, according to Dan Mandis and Matt Murphy, who were on the scene and gave us that assessment in the last hour. So that's one big story that we're watching here. The other story that we're watching that we think is very important is that Israel attacked Iran last night, taking out some of their nuclear facilities, killing some of their nuclear scientists, killing some of their top generals. It was a very forceful strike, and it's not over yet. The White House is meeting the president right now, meeting with his national security team, National Security Council, behind closed doors, and getting the latest on what is going on there. Tensions in the region, as you might imagine, are a little high at the moment as we watch to see what will happen next. Will Iran respond? Well, they sent a bunch of drones over, but I mean, that was pretty pathetic response. I mean, this was not a well-kept secret. It was pretty clear yesterday when the United States ordered all of its non-essential personnel out of the region's embassies, saying, get them out of there, that something was up. Trump said it wasn't imminent, but, he didn't confirm or deny it. He simply said, we ought to have a conversation and see if we can avoid, some kind of larger conflict. But Israel has always said that they would never allow Iran to have a nuclear weapon, and that apparently Iran was within 11 days, just a few days of having 11 nuclear weapons available to it because they had enriched enough uranium. So that's going on as well, and we're watching that. Let's go back to the other story. And the protests that are happening around the country and the protests that are going to happen tomorrow, okay? How is it going over with the American people? That's a great question. It's a fair question, too. This from the Populous Times. Americans have once again proven Democrats wrong about the ongoing anti-ICE LA riots, which the left continues to blame President Trump. Polling platform Insider Advantage interviewed voters about the ongoing LA riots and President Trump's deployment of the National Guard, which Democrats have blamed for triggering the riots and making them worse, and saying, well, we wouldn't have the looting, we wouldn't have the violence if it weren't for the National Guard's presence. How is that playing out with the American people? Who's winning that argument? The poll found, you ready? 59% of the respondents approved of the president's action, compared to slightly over a third, 39%, who opposed the move, while 2% undecided. And we've also received the support of more than half of independents. That's the key thing. And 37% of Democrats. So here's where 89% of Republicans approve of what the president has done. The people in the middle, 56%, the independents. And 37% support the Democrat position. I'm sorry, 37% of Democrats actually support what the president has done. So, I mean, it's overwhelmingly popular. You can't find many things in America that 60% of Americans will agree to. President said, if I didn't send the troops to Los Angeles the last 3 nights, that once beautiful and great city would be burning to the ground right now, much like 25,000 houses burned to the ground in L.A. due to an incumbent governor and mayor. So Republicans are winning the argument with the American people, it would seem. Did you see the thing that Elise Stefanik did yesterday? Hearing on Capitol Hill about sanctuary city policies, sanctuary state policies, brought in to testify was Kathy Hochul, the Democrat governor of New York, and Elise Stefanik just took her to task, just ripped her from one side to the other, and she didn't seem to have any answers for the questions that Elise Stefanik, Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, was asking.
Do you know who Sakir Khan is? You should, as the governor of New York State. Do you know?
Refresh my recollection.
He was an illegal migrant in New York. And do you know what crime he committed in addition to being here illegally?
No, I do not.
You do not. This was widely reported. He found a 15-year-old girl, threatened her with a metal pole, told her to get into the back seat of his car. He took her clothes off, and he violently raped her in Albany, New York. Do you know who Sebastian Zapita Khalil is?
I'm sure you'll tell me. There's many cases, whether they're
These are high-profile cases. Yes. New Yorkers know about them, and you don't. So let's talk about Sebastian Zapita Khalil. Do you know who that is?
I don't have the specific details at my disposal, no.
Well, this is an illegal migrant in New York because of your sanctuary state policies. Do you know what crime he committed?
I'm not familiar at this moment.
I bet you're going to be familiar when I remind you. He found a sleeping woman on the subway, lit her on fire, and burned her alive. This is in Kathy Hochul's New York. And as I'm sure you are aware, and I'll remind you, that ICE issued an order to detain this violent criminal, but that was rejected by New York officials due to sanctuary state laws.
Well, but let's just talk about it. On one hand, you got the Democrats out there supporting people who have come to this country illegally, and the protesters supporting the protesters who are out there throwing rocks against the police. On the other hand, you have the Republicans are saying we're going to be law and order. And I don't care what you think, America is still a law and order country. We don't like to see rocks thrown at our police officers. We don't have a lot of tolerance for people who are here and are waving the Mexican flag and burning the American flag on the streets of Los Angeles. And, if everything goes the way they say it's going to go, it's going to happen in other cities as well, starting tomorrow, maybe even here in Nashville. We don't support that as Americans, generally. Trump is doing well. I mean, it's a lot of winning going on here. From the Populist Times, far-left media outlet CNN journalist admitted that Trump's popularity has skyrocketed amid ongoing violent riots. This is their data analyst. I like this guy. Harry Enton said Trump's popularity has gone up like a rocket despite liberals trying to paint him as the greatest threat to Western democracy. He admitted that Republicans have gained more trust on immigration. More. Yes, if we take a look at the baseline numbers here, this is Trump's net approval rating on immigration. It's gone up like a rocket compared to now 8 years ago during Trump's first term. The CNN journalist noted that Trump was underwater by 20 points during his first term, but his polling numbers have risen considerably. Look at this. In his first term, Trump was way, way, way underwater at minus 21 points, but now he's up over 20 points in the aggregate. CNN journalists also admitted that President Trump was doing much better on various issues, according to other polls. He's in positive territory at +1 on his net approval rating. Some other polls even have a little higher than that. There's no issue on which Trump is doing so much better than he was in his first term, more than the issue of immigration. On illegal immigration, which many Democrats are opposing and siding with foreign-born criminals, Trump is polling incredibly well. Where does immigration rank on issues for him? How is he doing compared to the others? Hinton said that the immigration was Trump's top issue. He relentlessly campaigned on mass deportation, something never accomplished in this country's history. Why are people approving of Trump on immigration? Approve of these different immigration actions? Well, Trump's administration program to deport those here illegally. Look at this. They got 54% approval. Look, you may say, well, that's just a little more than half. It's really hard in a 50-50 America to find things where, we do well. And this is one. And the Democrats continue to not get it. They continue to think that supporting illegal immigration is going to be the thing that wins them favor with the voters, and it's just not. I mean, it's simply not winning them favor at all. In fact, they are taking on the 20% issue. See, this is the amazing thing about Trump. Trump figured out that, instead of dreading Trump derangement syndrome, use it to your advantage. We know that, there are a certain number of people out there on the Democrat side of the equation, people in power, people who hold elected office, people who are in high positions within the Democrat Party. Generally, the party faithful are much more liberal than Democrats writ large. The people who are actively involved in politics are much more liberal generally than Democrats are writ large. And so you have a situation where, the Democrats are looking at the immigration situation and they're saying, we don't like Donald Trump's position on anything. So if he's for, removing these illegal immigrants, we're going to be against it. We don't think they should be removed. It's a 20% position. Well, maybe a little bit more than 20%, but not much. And on the other hand, Trump is taking the popular positions with the American people, and if you take the popular position and you're Donald Trump and we're Democrats, we must be against whatever you're for. It's not working for them, and they just can't quite see that they continue to make the same mistake. It's astonishing that they're that dumb, that they cannot figure out what he's doing. He's playing them. I'll take my position, I'll take the popular position, and the popular position will resonate with the American people, and that leaves with you to be against me because you don't like anything that I come up with. If I'm for it, you have to be against it, and that's a 20% position. You take all the 20% positions you want, and Donald Trump takes the 80% positions, and it's going to be a good turnout for Republicans all the way. And they just can't help themselves. They hate Donald Trump so much that they'll even try to defend the indefensible. What crazy, crazy, crazy times we're in. But right now, Trump doing well, the polls seem to show it, and Democrats keep going down the same road to ruin and don't seem to understand why it's not working out for them. They don't get it. 20 minutes now past the hour of 11 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7.
Kilmar Abrego Garcia pleads not guilty to human trafficking charges, and Iran is asking for an emergency meeting of the United Nations Security Council. These stories and more at 11:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Two big stories. When the protest downtown didn't turn out to be all that much for the arraignment of Kilmar Abrego Garcia. Our own Dan Manis was down there, now has returned to the studio. Dan, any thoughts that you want to share, having gone down to see what turned out to be a rather lackluster affair?
I think so. It was lackluster. And I will also say that that this was not a professional job because of how not professional the sound system was. I will say this, though, about those protesters, is that at one point they were chanting peaceful. So I will give it to them that they were dedicated to keeping this peaceful. The other thing that I will say is that on the way out, I did see a couple of what I would consider probably professionals dressed all in black. They had, I don't know, some spiky kind of a bracelet thing on their hands, on their wrists. They had masks on, and they definitely had backpacks and the whole thing. So if there are professionals, which we believe that there are, if there's professionals that are coming to Middle Tennessee for tomorrow, I think some of them are already here, and they were checking out the protest, not really participating, because I think that their big plans are tomorrow. Oh, and by the way, Brian, a great Matt Murphy, Phil Williams story is coming up at 3.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Did he have a little Phil Williams encounter?
Yes, but I'm sworn to secrecy. But yes, they both were there at the same time. And I'll let Matt tell the story at 3.
Oh, my goodness. I can't wait for that one.
Yep. Other than that, you know what? I just lackluster. I think that's the chants were pedantic. They were just throwing all kinds of, red meat to the people that were there. Alex Padilla was arrested for asking a question. Really just dumb stuff.
Yeah.
But that's red meat for the people that are there. Okay.
Hey, Brother Dan, I've got a question. Channel 4's reporting that there was a counter protest out there. Did you see any type of counter protest?
No. I saw there. You know what there was? There was one guy that was there who is sort of like one of these street preachers. But that's all. I didn't see any counter protesters there. Maybe there were, and I was on the other side.
Channel 4's reporting that the two sides had to be separated.
What?
And I'm not seeing anything like that.
I didn't see that at all.
Not like had to be separated because there was an issue, but like the reporter, I think it was Brendan Tierney, said that police were keeping the two sides apart.
If that was going on, man, I didn't see it.
Didn't feel that way to you, huh?
No. Honestly, everybody was cool. I tried to question a couple of people, but nobody wanted to be recorded.
Yeah.
But I didn't see any kind of, back and forth with any counter protesters at all.
Yeah, I just wanted to check because I was kind of skeptical of that myself, but I just wanted to ask, since you were there, if you saw anything like that.
Oh, you know what? I just got a text from a contact that I have in police. He says there were some, not a ton.
Okay.
Well, then I'll tell you this. They were not effective because I saw one guy who was like a street preacher, and that was it. I didn't see any counter protesters at all.
Okay.
And I sent Matt a text too, see if he noticed any as well. He and I talked about it, and he didn't see anybody either, unless he saw some and didn't mention it to me. But I was looking around. I didn't see any.
All right. Well, I'm going to go with what you saw. I mean, you saw it with your own eyes. You were there.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Maybe if there were counter protesters there, they need to work on their counter protesting, just like the people that were there have to work on their protesting.
Right.
It's like they just, you know what? This is kind of like amateur hour. To be honest with you.
Well, but the people, the black bloc people, the anarchists and those people, I mean, it sounds like some of them are here.
Oh, yeah.
I tell you, there were some there, but they were not, the ones that I saw, they were not participating yet.
Were they just sort of hanging around?
Yeah, they're just kind of slinking around.
Yeah.
Slinking around.
Slinking around.
Slinking around. You know, they got their masks. It's like 91 degrees out there, and these guys are walking around with their masks on, and you know they're heavy. They're
dressed in black. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Dressed in black.
What's
into
in the
whole
black?
thing.
What's in the backpack? What have they got? You know,
Yeah, that's exactly right. And
Now,
so, you know,
listen, I'm telling you, as a person who used to cover a lot of protests in D.C., those are the guys you got to avoid. I once nearly got, I got into sort of a shoving match with a bunch of them at a protest one time, and they took my credential from around my neck and tried to push me underneath a horse.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, it's ugly.
Yeah, I'm thinking these guys don't have manicured lawns and 3-bedroom, 2.5-bath homes here in Nashville.
No, these are not those guys. And,
no, and you know what? I thought
it'd be
about trying
interesting
to
to
talk
see
to
if they're going to try to stir trouble tomorrow.
Yeah,
I mean, it
we'll
will
see.
start as a protest, and then there are always those who are around the edges who want to agitate, who want to make it bad, and try to to stir up a bunch of trouble. And then everybody has to be back at 3:00 to hear this Phil Williams story.
I've got to see if Phil's posted about it.
No, Phil won't, but I will tell you that there is some video evidence.
Okay.
And I know because I took it.
Oh, my goodness.
He's like, hey, this is Murphy Show, right? Hey, I've got this great idea. Right then, I knew.
Listen, all I know is if Matt Murphy comes to you and says, I got this great idea, run!
No. It's a great story at 3.
I can't wait. I can't wait. All right, time for the news now with Ken Weaver at 11:30.
$11:30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. We're staring down what's going to be a soggy weekend, according to the forecast. We'll have it for you here in 5 minutes. Right now in Nashville, Kilmar Abrego Garcia has pleaded not guilty to human trafficking charges after admitting it was an error to deport him back in March due to a previous judge's ruling that he faced danger if returned to El Salvador. The Trump administration brought him back last week to face the federal charges filed in Tennessee. Those charges stem from a 2022 traffic stop where state troopers suspected the 8 people in the vehicle Abrego Garcia was driving were being trafficked, but the Biden FBI ordered them released. Hundreds of people are outside that federal courthouse demanding Abrego Garcia be released. His wife addressed the media before today's hearing with an interpreter.
Our family should have never been in this situation.
Mientras termino el mensaje de mi esposo, quiero agregar un mensaje de mi parte. Nuestra familia nunca debería estar en esta situación.
We should be with our children.
Deberíamos estar con nuestros hijos.
Me and Kilmar's mind is here in Tennessee, but my heart is in Maryland with my kids.
While the Trump administration described the mistaken removal as an administrative error, officials have continued to justify it by insisting Abrego Garcia was a member of the MS-13 gang with ties to drug and firearms trafficking and abuse of women. Iran has asked for an emergency meeting of the United Nations Security Council to condemn Israel's attack this morning on Iranian missile and nuclear sites and the targeted killing of high-ranking military and nuclear officials. Israel's ambassador to the UN, Danny Danon, commenting on Israel's military action at a press conference in New York today.
Calculated and necessary action based on clear intelligence and carried out in response to an escalating existential threat.
That is the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
It is 36 minutes past the hour of 11 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Chris Hand off today, spending some time with family on this. It is a federal holiday, and so he's off taking advantage of that. I will be here all the way till noon. Then Chad Benson will carry on, and apparently we all need to be back at 3 o'clock for Matt Murphy. I mean, I don't know what happened, but it sounds intriguing, doesn't it? Matt Murphy apparently had an encounter with Phil Williams. And I can't get any other details. Dan Mandis will not share the other details. So there we go. All right, let's see. Let's talk about some other things that are in the news. Again, we're watching two big stories. What happened with Israel against Iran and the reaction in Washington. We're watching that very closely. The president meeting with his national security detail now to get some more details about all of that. But he has not made an appearance before cameras this morning, to my knowledge. If he does, we will go to that. The protest downtown seemed to be minimal, not well organized, not very, big turnout for the arraignment of Kilmar Abrego Garcia. But there are many questions about what might happen tomorrow for this No King's Day. By the way, Trump doesn't like that term, no Trump, no King's Day. It's he's supposed to have his big military parade tomorrow. Could there be protest? It might be protests. But Trump says, what are they calling it, No King's Day?
Several No Kings protests planned across the country on Saturday as well. What are your thoughts on those?
What do they call No Kings?
No Kings.
I don't feel like a king. I have to go through hell to get stuff approved. A king would say, I'm not going to get this. A king would have never had the California mandate to even be talking to him. He wouldn't have to call up Mike Johnson and Thune and say, fellas, you got to pull this off, and after years we get it done. No, we're not a king. We're not a king at all. Thank you very much.
He's not a king. He wants you to know that. Other stuff happening. Marsha Blackburn has a bill called the FAIR Act, which would codify Trump's ending of taxpayer subsidization of biased media. This was an order that went out on May 1st. This would codify that, would direct all federal funds issued via grants, contracts, or other funding instruments to NPR and PBS be identified and ceased by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting Board of Directors and all executive department agencies. The bill, if it becomes law, would permanently bar the Corporation for Public Broadcasting for both directly and indirectly funding NPR and PBS, ensuring that licensees and permittees of public radio and television stations, as well as other recipients of those funding, do not use federal funds to support NPR or PBS. Yeah, listen, about time. There's nothing that irritates me more than seeing something that is definitely left-leaning media being supported by taxpayer dollars. You know, it's egregious, and it needs to have stopped a long time ago. We don't have any business in this country funding news organizations. That ought not be the way it works. News organizations should stand on their own. There should not be government involvement in any level. And to see this defunding effort that's now underway, to take money away from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting so they cannot fund PBS or NPR, this would be a great thing for America. You know, look, if it's, they keep saying, well, we don't get much of our money from the federal government anyway. Okay, then fine. If it's like 5%, 1%, whatever you think it is, go raise it. Get out there in the real world and find out what it takes to do radio and do broadcasting and to do it for profit. We don't need PBS. We don't need NPR. And if those things are going to survive, let them survive on private donations, but not U.S. taxpayer dollars. It's about time. It's about time. Great story here. I wanted to get in from Real Clear Investigations. Tipping the scales, why so many cases against Trump are heard by Democrat-appointed judges. That's a great question. I mean, people ask that question. Why is it it's always Democrat judges? Because there's a little thing called forum shopping, judge shopping. Are Trump's adversaries engaging in forum shopping? Real Clear Investigation analyzed 350 cases brought against the administration. We found that plaintiffs have brought 80% of those cases before just 11 of the nation's 91 district courts, while Democrat presidents have appointed roughly 60% of all active district court judges. Each of the 11 district courts where the anti-Trump challenges have been clustered boast an even higher percentage of Democrat appointees. In several of these venues, the administration challengers are almost guaranteed that a judge picked by Joe Biden, Barack Obama, or Bill Clinton will preside over their case. The analysis of these 350 cases, which covers all of those identified in popular litigation trackers and Real Clear Politics' independent research as of this week, lends credence to claims that anti-Trump litigants may be strategically filing suits in courts where they are most likely to receive a favorable ruling, a practice that has been both pursued and decried by Democrats and Republicans. They're judge shopping. They're going around and they're finding judges. And what does that mean? Well, it means that you may get some initial readings from the courts that are positive for the Democrats, but at the end of the day, it's got to go to the appellate courts. At the end of the day, if it goes to the appellate courts, it can be once again, it could end up at the Supreme Court, where you have ostensibly a 6-3 conservative majority, 5-4. You know, who knows where Justice Roberts is going to be at any given moment. Trump critics note that Republican-appointed judges has also ruled against the administration. They contend the courts have halted Trump's policies at an unprecedented scale because of his administration's unprecedented overreach. Well, I don't know that that's true. What I think is true is that they're trying to enforce the law, and they'll go to a court and they'll find somebody who's against it, some judge who doesn't mind being overruled by the appellate courts or by the Supreme Courts, and they'll give them a temporary stay. And then we're off to the races. They will play that game all day long. 40% of the cases were filed in the District of Columbia, where, I'm trying to figure it out, Democrats have a 13% edge in judges. How about in the District of Massachusetts, where Democrats have a 32% edge? The District Court of Maryland, where Democrats judges lead Republican judges, appointed judges by 30%. The Southern District of New York, we hear about that one all the time. The Northern District of California, very liberal. Western District of Washington State. The District of Rhode Island, Northern District of Illinois, Central District of California, the District of New Jersey, the Eastern District of Virginia. All of those have considerably more Democrat-appointed judges than are Republicans, so that's where they go to file. That's where they go to make their case. Given that the federal government is located within its jurisdiction, not surprising that plaintiffs would disproportionately bring cases in the D.C. District Court. However, it is seen by some on the right as hostile to the President Trump and includes several judges, Judge Jeb Boasberg, Tanya Chutkan, and Beryl Howell, who have a history of issuing federal adverse rulings against the president and some of his confidants, including Steve Bannon, Michael Flynn, and Peter Navarro. See, justice is supposed to be blind, but you and I know that's not the way it works. The bottom line is right now, the Democrats have a lot of judges they can turn to get favorable rulings that put things on hold. But it doesn't last very long in my estimation. Positive news, I'm really excited about these stories. General Motors is investing $4 billion in manufacturing plants including some in Tennessee. The Spring Hill manufacturing plant's going to get some of that money to build both gasoline and electric vehicles. That's good. Again, Trump saying that if you come to this country and you build your products here, there will be no tariffs. It works out for us. It works out for Middle Tennessee in a big way. Trump says that the China trade deal is done. Here's where that stands right now. President Donald Trump announced Wednesday morning that the United States is just now one step away from finalizing a trade deal with China and that it is awaiting only final approval from him and Chinese President Xi Jinping. This is good news. Here's the way it will play out. The U.S. will continue to impose a 55% tariff on China, while Beijing will retain a 10% tariff on American goods. So we're going to stick them for 55%, and they're going to stick us for 10%. Seems like a pretty good deal, right? And China made a key concession on rare earth minerals. This is a big dog deal because these things are badly needed for our automotive, defense, and energy industries. What did we give them? Trump will allow Chinese students to continue to study at U.S. universities like Harvard, etc. That deal, he says, is done, subject to the final approval with President Xi and me. So what will that look like? It seems like to me probably we're talking about having President Trump and President Xi get together either in Washington or in Beijing to sign the final documents. It sounds like all the T's are crossed, all the I's are dotted. All we need now is for the presidents to sign off on the final trade deals, and it sounds like we have a deal. Huge that we now have a trade deal with China when the left said they would never come to the table. There was no percentage in them coming to the table. Guess what? They came to the table, and it sounds like we got a pretty good deal out of the thing. Pretty good deal there. And the other bit of good economic news, which I'm really excited about, gas prices continue to drop. Now, I don't know. I saw where crude oil prices spiked a little bit this morning because of what happened overnight, the attacks of Israel against Iran. But overall, the price of gasoline has been down. The Memorial Day, the Sunday of Memorial Week, it dropped to $3.18 a gallon. I don't know. I think I'm paying a lot less than that. I think I'm paying about $2.65, $2.70 a gallon.
Yeah, I'm under $3 a gallon.
Yeah, I'm well under $3 a gallon. I don't really look at it that close. Do you really look at the gas pump, or do you just figure I got to do it anyway? So.
That's what I do. That's what I do, Brother Brian. I've got to have gas. So.
I got to go to work. That's right. Got to do this. Got to do that. Yeah. But anyway, I think I'm paying about $2.65.
That's what I am. I go to a neighborhood Walmart near where I live, and it's usually in the $2.40 to $2.60 something range.
We have good gas prices here in Watertown.
We do. We do in Murfreesboro too.
All right. It is 50 minutes now past the hour. More straight ahead right here on the Chris Hand Show. Brian Wilson filling in.
Kilmar Abrego Garcia update. Police investigating after a human foot was discovered at the Old Hickory Dam this morning. Iran's asking for an emergency meeting of the United Nations Security Council to condemn Israel's attack. These stories and more at noon on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It's past the hour. Coming up next, of course, is the Chad Benson Show, and the aforementioned Chad Benson is now with us here in studio for what we call the Chad Chat.
What's happening, brother?
What's going on with you, man?
Nothing. Just getting ready to have a little bit of fun.
Well, I'm telling you, you couldn't ask for a busier news day. All kinds of stuff going on, both on the national, international scene and locally.
A lot of chaos happening out there. And it's funny that poor Alex Padilla, man, he had the runway to himself for about 10 minutes. And then Israel's like, hold our wine.
Yeah. I guess what happened overnight was not a complete surprise. I mean, most people knew that something was up. I mean, it wasn't a complete shock. But I mean, boy, I'm telling you, this is a big deal.
It's
huge. When you have an attack against Iran like that, and apparently it's not over. Not by a long shot. They say it's going to go for several days.
I mean, this is a massive attack. The way they did it was so big in how they infiltrated, how long they were there. I mean, we've seen it. We saw it with the phones, the cell phones, right?
Yeah.
Right.
This is them being inside of the country, the Mossad, doing things. It was now how much. What's the next move? That's going to be the big question for not only Israel, but also for Iran, because that will probably tell us how deep we're going to get involved. It's not if, but when and how big.
Yeah, I think the question is watch the Strait of Hormuz and see what happens there. Do they try to cause any problems to that major shipping channel that they have some control over? So that'll be interesting to see. But you're right, absolutely. It was Mossad inside the country. And what's really surprising is the sort of lackluster response from Iran back against Israel. They fired off a bunch of slow-moving drones, which, the military in Israel is so good, they can just pick them things right out of the sky with planes and their protective missile systems. It really, honestly, if that's all they got, it sort of tells you a little bit about how toothless the country of Iran has become, without any real military to back up the things they're big on supporting other groups, but they don't really have much of a military left within their country.
No, and it's going to be, again, is this just something where they're taking a deep breath and recalibrating, or we realize they don't have anything left, and we cut the head off the snake in a few areas last night, which is also a big deal.
That's right. Well, Chad Benson will have all of that coming up next right here on Super Talk 99.7. Right now, time for the news with Ken Weaver.